Okay, so this is another daily debate from the Teen Debater. Our topic for today is this house believes that tax avoidance should be made a criminal offense. In the proposition, we have Pranath, and in the opposition, we have Niyati. Um, Pranath, on your self count.
Yeah, works. Okay. I'll be starting on my self count of three, two, one. Ma'am, we need to understand right on the burden itself of the motion itself as two. First, tax, second, avoidance. Ma'am, we need to understand that all of this debate should be focused upon this rather than going into different aspects. Talking about tax avoidance itself, ma'am, the opposition will come here and tell you it's legal, it's business planning, it's using loopholes. But ma'am, we need to understand just because something is legal, it doesn't mean it should stay legal. Now, ma'am, directly coming up to the rebuttal itself, the speaker one, my respected opponent, will probably talk about how businesses have right to minimize their taxes. But ma'am, what they're forgetting is the basic argument itself that when companies shift profits to tax havens and pay nothing while using all public infrastructure, that's not smart business, ma'am. That's theft from every citizen. Apple paid almost nothing in Ireland, ma'am, and the opposition thinks this should continue being legal. Second argument the opposition will suggest is that criminalization will scare away businesses. Ma'am, we need to understand if these companies only come to your country to avoid paying taxes, what's even the point of having them? McDonald's in France had to settle their tax case because they were shifting money to Luxembourg. Luxembourg, ma'am, all legal, all allowed, and France had to spend years investigating to get anything back. And ma'am, this is the basic mindset of the corporate world the opposition is protecting today. Third argument coming up on they'll be that they'll probably say tax avoidance creates jobs and investment. Ma'am, we need to understand all of these companies make billions while governments can't fund hospitals and schools because the money sitting in tax havens. The world loses massive amounts every year, ma'am, enough to educate children, enough to save lives. And ma'am, the opposition wants to keep calling this legal business practice. Now, ma'am, talking about the difference between avoidance and evasion itself, the opposition will say one is legal, one is criminal, so keep them separate. Ma'am, but what's the actual difference between hiding money in offshore accounts illegally and shifting profits to tax havens legally? Both steal from public funds, ma'am. Both take away money that should go to healthcare, education, and infrastructure. The only difference is one hired better lawyers and accountants. Another thing that the opposition will argue is how OECD is already working on this and we don't need criminal laws. Ma'am, countries blocked UN tax reforms because their corporations benefit more from the broken system. These reforms have been going on for years, ma'am, and profit shifting has only increased. Without criminal consequences, ma'am, this corporation means nothing but because there's no real penalty for continuing. Fourth thing was about how this will affect economic growth. Ma'am, we need to understand all the growth that comes from companies paying nothing in taxes is fake growth. When Starbucks, Google, Amazon were questioned in UK Parliament about paying almost nothing on youth sales, ma'am, all of it was legal. That's exactly the problem we are trying to solve today, making what should be a criminal actually a criminal. Last coming up, ma'am, the opposition will talk about how difficult is it to define tax avoidance for criminal purposes. Ma'am, the Panama paper showed how offshore entities were being used and governments recovered barely anything. If there is no criminal penalty, ma'am, why would anyone stop? So, ma'am, wrapping up with the last argument, when they come here and stay and defending legal tax avoidance, just to remember, ma'am, they are defending a system where companies make billions, hospitals close, schools shut down, and children suffer because governments have no money while corporate profits sit safely in tax havens. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your opening statement. Niyati, um, we'll need your opening statement now.
All right, greetings of the day to the House at large. Today, I Niyati stand against the motion that tax avoidance should be made a criminal offense. I'll be starting my speech in the backward count of three, two, and one. In my speech, I'll give you a proper setup, which the proposition has completely failed to do, and give you two major arguments, one principle and one practical. Firstly, the definition of key terms. Tax avoidance is the legal structuring of finances to minimize tax liability within the framework of existing law. A criminal offense means conduct punishable by imprisonment or fine under criminal law. The burden on side opposition, the burden on side proposition was to prove that criminal avoidance is morally justified, practically necessary, and beneficial to the society. My burden is to prove that it is morally illegitimate, economically reckless, and legally self-defeating. The policy on side opposition is that we believe that tightening tax codes, closing loopholes, and increasing transparency, but never criminalizing what is legal. stakeholders and impacts. Firstly, taxpayers, entrepreneurs, investors, and ultimately the Indian economy are the major stakeholders. If avoidance is criminalized, then compliance collapses and investment flees, and citizens lose trust in law itself. The principal argument on side opposition. The principal argument on side opposition is punishing legality is straight tyranny. The moral premise of this argument is that law's purpose is to punish wrongdoing, not obedience. First layer to this argument is that legal certainty is justice. Tax avoidance is not evasion, it is legal compliance. When the government calls a legal act criminal, it erases the very line between citizen and criminal. Justice demands clarity, not confusion. Second layer to this argument is that the state created the loophole. They must have had something in mind. If the parliament writes the loophole, the moral failure is the states, not citizens. Since 1991, India has changed its tax laws over 1,500 times. And now the same states wants to punish citizens for navigating that chaos. That is not justice, that is hypocrisy. Now, the proposition has said that they'll say that morally demands paying your fair share. But morality cannot override legality. Citizens aren't criminals for obeying the very rules that the state has made. Now, moving on to the practical argument on side opposition, which is criminalization will ultimately lead to criminalization of India. The premise of this argument is that you cannot build a strong economy by criminalizing compliance. First side to this argument is economic suicide. Foreign investors will flee the country when legal tax planning risks fail. India fought to climb the ease of doing business rankings. This motion drags it back into fear and uncertainty. Second layer to this argument is judicial collapse. There are already over 5 lakh pending tax disputes stoking Indian tribunals. And add criminal cases to that, then you don't get justice, you get paralysis, which is very, very straightforward and simple because the Indian infrastructure is not very good in terms of the judiciary. Now, moving on to the preemptive rebuttal. Now, the proposition side calls it fairness, but fairness dies when innocent citizens face criminal trials for obeying a confusing law. Now, in conclusion, criminalizing tax avoidance is not justice, it is legal terrorism. It punishes the citizen for the state's incompetence, destroys investors' confidence, and it shatters the rule of law. We on side opposition refuse to let India criminalize obedience. Reform the law, do not weaponize it. Thank you.
After those great opening statements, now we're going to get into the Q&A round, and I'm going to start with the opposition. Niyati, start off, please.
Respected proposition, my question to you is, as I mentioned in my speech, India already has over 5 lakh pending tax disputes. So how will the legal system handle millions more if tax avoidance becomes a criminal offense?
Could they again repeat their question?
Please repeat it, Niyati.
My question is that India already has over 5 lakh pending tax disputes. So how will the legal system handle millions and millions of those more if tax avoidance becomes a criminal law? If it becomes a criminal offense.
Okay. Now, ma'am, considering that when we are talking about India, cool. Okay, so, ma'am, we need to first understand that the whole agenda is being whole globally, right? We are not only focusing upon India, right? There are various other countries happening where already most of the companies, be it McDonald's, be it Google, be it Apple, they are already exploiting and avoiding tax in various other countries. I had already provided examples of these, ma'am, these happening in India. And therefore, ma'am, this should be stopped, right? Be it in India, be it in any other country which is there. This is legally wrong. Thank you, ma'am.
Um, okay, okay. I'm gonna
May I
allow.
ask a follow-up? May I ask a follow-up? A follow-up.
Okay, I'm gonna allow that. Go ahead.
You say that is legally incorrect, but it is the law that states you can avoid the tax. Laws are confusing. They were drafted by the state, and the law literally says that you can avoid tax by doing XYZ. So how is that illegal?
What? Could you please repeat the last part?
How is it illegal if the law literally states you can avoid tax by doing something?
Okay, ma'am. I'll just give you a simple example, right, ma'am? First we need to actually understand that just because something exists in law, it doesn't make it right, ma'am. Right. When I already mentioned this example in my previous speech, you should have listened to that. Again, I'm repeating, when Apple uses Ireland to pay basically nothing while making billions from customers everywhere, and that's not following the law, ma'am. That's exploiting loopholes in it, right? The opposition, ma'am, you are basically saying if rich people find a legal way to steal money from public funds, should stay legal because technically it is allowed, right? This is the whole argument which you are stating, ma'am. Therefore, it is wrong. Thank you.
Okay, Niyati, I'm gonna stop that argument now. I'm gonna allow Pranath to ask a question.
Ma'am, currently there are no questions from the proposition side.
There are no questions? Okay. Niyati, go ahead then. If you have any other questions, please.
Can I have a minute to think because this was like the core question I had.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would it be okay if my question is like semi-continued to whatever the proposition's answer was?
The previous answer?
Like it's not directly related to it, but it's linked to it.
Ask the question, yeah.
Ma'am, it is one and the same thing, right?
Let her ask the question. If it's the same thing, I'll not allow it. Ask the question first. If it's the same thing, I'll probably stop you.
No, so the thing is that they mentioned that it's not about like in one of their answers they mentioned that this debate is not just about India and all of that. It's related to that. Can I ask it?
Pranath, do you have any questions now?
No, ma'am. The proposition side won't be asking any POIs.
You don't want to. Okay. Niyati, then I'm gonna allow you this time. Go ahead.
So, as the side proposition, you're supporting the policy given in the motion, all right? So, if your policy can't survive in India, the country we're literally debating in, why should anyone believe that it would work anywhere else in the world?
Okay, ma'am. Now I'm considering that India is a country where there are various other problems, right? India is a country wherein there are various illiterate people because these taxpayers are avoiding tax because they are not paying the government. The government is not able to like build hospitals, build healthcare systems in India. Therefore, ma'am, India is one of the worst rankings for healthcare, worst rankings for education, right? This is the whole reason for that. Therefore, ma'am, the side which our proposition is supporting, already mentioned, also mentioned in my speech, because, ma'am, when these companies like make billions while governments like India can't fund hospitals and schools because the money is sitting in tax havens, ma'am. This was the whole argument. Therefore, the side of opposition should have listened to this and then first ask POIs, ma'am. I'll give that to them. Thank you.
Okay. Niyati, do you have a follow-up to that?
Kind of. And I have a minute to structure it because it's like very, very long.
You can take a minute. Okay. Pranath,
Ma'am, considering
yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, considering right, I believe the answer was satisfied, right? The question which was asked and the answer which I gave, it was already satisfied, though. So there is no scope of giving follow-ups. But depends
Yeah,
on the chairperson.
and like I don't exactly have a follow-up, it's more of a counter argument. And I would like some questions, but the proposition has no POIs.
Okay. Okay, Niyati. I do believe I do want to hear. I also agree that I want to hear the proposition ask POIs. Um,
The
and
proposition would need 2 minutes to think.
yeah,
If
you can take time. We have time right now, so that's okay. But I want some POIs more from the proposition as well. Niyati, I'm gonna the counter argument or whatever question you were going to ask. Right now, I'm gonna pause that. I want the proposition to give a POI, please. I'm gonna
And
give
is
you
it
two
alright if I
minutes.
ask any POIs?
Sorry?
Is it alright? Is it alright if the opposition asks no more POIs?
Yeah, sure.
Because I've already asked 4 or
If you
5.
don't have any, then it's fine. Pranat, you have 2 minutes as you asked, please.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. The
Okay.
proposition is ready with
Okay,
question.
proposition. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Now, ma'am, since the opposition keeps telling about business growth, investment, etc., but can they even show one example where a country got better schools and hospitals because rich companies kept out on taxes? Given that they stated example about India, which truly proves the whole point which the proposition is suggesting to the House.
I
Okay.
didn't really get a question out of that. It was more of a statement. Could you repeat? I'm
No.
sorry.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, since the opposition is stating about business growth, mentioning about investment, but can the opposition show even one example where a country got better schools and hospitals because rich companies skipped out on taxes? This was the question, and ma'am, also given that they stated example about India, which truly proves the point which the proposition is trying to say.
Okay. Niyati, did you understand the question?
I understood the first part, but I didn't understand what my example about India backed up which point by the proposition. And I don't think that was part of the question. So
Okay, ma'am, either way, the opposition can answer.
Okay. Um, right. Niyati, do you want to answer?
yes, could I have a minute?
Okay. You can have a minute.
All right. So no country actually developed because people skipped out on taxes. They developed because their governments were smart enough not to criminalize success. All right. So look at Singapore and Ireland. Ireland was an example which the proposition side gave. Both cut out complicated tax laws and created investors' trust, and their GDP exploded. Singapore went from a fishing port to a global finance hub, not by jailing taxpayers, but by encouraging them to invest and grow. So on the flip side, countries that over criminalize, like Argentina or Greece, they drove investors away, they lost revenue, and they collapsed and they debt. So no, it's not about skipping taxes, it's about creating a system in which people want to pay into. You don't develop by punishing growth, you develop by enabling growth.
Ma'am, point of clarification, could the proposition just repeat the first part, the very starting of their answer, the very, very starting of their answer, the first line?
Yeah, that's fine. Niyati, go ahead, please.
I can't because I just spoke it on the spot. I think I said that no country can develop because people are I said that no country develops because people skip on taxes. They develop because governments are smart enough to not criminalize people who don't pay taxes. I mean, it was something along these lines. I'm not like I can't repeat what I
Okay,
exactly said.
ma'am, works. Ma'am, another POI, ma'am.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Ma'am, can the opposition admit that all of these tax disputes in India faces are now because they never set a clear line and keep patching the same broken system? Why do they choose to manage disputes instead of solving the root cause?
Okay, can you repeat the question again, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Wasn't
Ma'am,
clear.
can the opposition admit that all of these tax disputes in India, which was basically their own question, right? Faces which India faces now are because they've never set a clear line and keep patching the same broken system in India. Why do they choose to manage disputes instead of solving the root cause?
Okay, Niyati, you need a minute or?
I don't get what I have to answer. Like I heard the question, I understood it, but I don't know what it means. Could you like
Um,
give a like one statement of the question, like the only part I need to answer, not the fluff around it?
Proposition?
Okay. Yeah, works. I'll just tell you the context because you need to understand that, right? India faces tax disputes because there was never a clear line set up, and the opposition keep patching the same broken system in India, right? Why do they choose to manage disputes in India instead of solving the root cause?
I'm sorry, did you mean opposition? Because I think you said proposition, and that literally puts the question against your own side.
I did mention opposition.
No, you said proposition.
I'm gonna
Alright, so your
ignore it.
basic question is that there are a lot of tax disputes in India and why we're not solving the root cause, right? Is that it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so no country has developed because people saved taxes. They developed because the governments were smart enough not to criminalize success. And if we look at India, the real issue isn't that people avoid taxes, is that the system itself is broken, like I mentioned in my speech. We have a tax code that changes every few months, a bureaucracy that confuses people, and an enforcement that is inconsistent. That is why disputes happen. So instead of patching the cracks with punishment, why not fix the foundation as side opposition says? So instead of, say, criminalizing avoidance of tax like the side proposition says, we can reform the law, we can simplify the system, and we can build trust because you can't fix a leaking pipe by arresting the people who use it. You have to fix the pipe itself.
There are no POIs from the proposition side. Thank
Hmm.
you, ma'am.
Okay, that's fine. Um, all right. I think we have like 5 minutes left before this meeting ends. Um, all right. This is a tough one because you both are so good at debating. Wow. What should I do? Okay. So, all right. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Niyati 1 Because just because of a slight difference, it's not even that big, but I think I should announce a winner for this. I think both of your opening statements were perfect. As I said, you both are very good at debating. The all the points were mentioned perfectly and within the time limits. That was more important. And moving on to the Q&A, which was more of a heated thing, I'm gonna say when the opposition started with their questions, I thought they were well thought out. I think um, it was very much concise. I think the only problem really that made Niyati the winner was that her questions were more concise to understand. Pranat's, maybe because you didn't have POIs, I don't know what happened there, but it weren't like concise. Like the last question, for example, it wasn't really clear what you were trying to say. And I think that was a problem. But other than that, you guys backed up your. I wasn't seeing any more evidence in this debate as well. There were like statements thrown around for the Q&A for sure, but I think if we could have expanded more on the evidence, that will be great. But other than that, I think it was a pretty good debate. Pranath, Niyati, do you have anything to say about this?
Actually, I had made my speech according to MUN format with proper statistics, with proper going into a legal format. But then I just remembered that we are into a daily debate and the statistics are not much needed. So I had to completely like cut my speech and rephrase it. But yeah, okay, cool. Great debate, guys.
No. Even you can definitely like just say one sentence. That would be nice. Um, for statistics. Niyati, what do you think?
I feel like I didn't include any statistics because number one, I was preparing for side opposition initially. And
Yep.
then number two, like in most of the debates I've been in, most of them have been like parliamentary debates. So the judge usually says that statistics are not very important, rather the logic of your arguments should be strong. So that's why I usually don't focus on statistics. But I did think that this speech needed more backing up evidence, and maybe because it was last minute, so I couldn't search stuff up very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to really rely on the evidence and you throw random statistics all around, but like one sentence, one concise sentence would be great. I think your logical arguments for both of you were very nice, actually. It was great to see you both debate. And this is my last debate, so it was nice to end on a good note. So thank you so much for both of you for joining. And I'm gonna stop the meeting here.